Hello and welcome back to our CAD Clip Revit structural lessons, and I've just got a blank screen here. I'm going to start a new project with the default template file, RTE file, and just so we all start off with the same thing, and then maybe we'll have a look at an existing project. Now we're going to talk about levels. Levels are probably the single most important thing in Revit because just about everything is tied to a level. Okay, in this particular project I've only got one elevation, which is this guy down in here, so I can either double click on here or I can double click on this triangle and go to that elevational view, and I can see it starts out with basically two levels. Okay, if you hover over it, you can click on it, you can see some information on there, and we've got some controls about that level. Okay, I can click on that level and then I can click on here. When anything ever turns blue, it means you can change it. So I'm going to click on here and I can call this, top of steel if I want, and I can put a slash in there, it doesn't matter, and I'm going to click out and watch what happens. It's going to say, would you like to rename the corresponding views? And watch what happens over here. Yes. Okay. Now watch what happens. Click out. Is that my level 2 is now called called top of steel. My level 2 analytical, I would need to go in and rename that independently. And we'll talk about that when we start duplicating views a little bit later. The main thing is there is a plan view associated to this level, and even though they appeared, sometimes people think these are levels. Well, really these aren't levels. They're plan views generally associated to a level. Okay, each plan view has to be associated to a level, and then when you rename it, I can click on here, I can go in and change this to be 12. I don't have to say feet, and then I can hit an enter and it moves it up by 12 feet. All the walls and roofs and doors and beams and columns and joists, etc., that are associated to this level will then move up or down accordingly. Same as this, I'm going to click on here once. Maybe I'll do it from here instead. I'm going to click on my level 1. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say rename, and I'm just going to call this, top of slab, and then hit OK. And it's going to say, would you like to rename the corresponding level? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to click on here and I'm going to go top of slab, zoom in, zoom out, and there it is. And now I have a top of slab plan and a top of slab level. Now I'm going to go in and create another level. Okay. Now the size of the object here, the size of the symbol outside of the level, is being associated by the scale. If I change this scale from 1/8 of an inch to be 1/16 of an inch, okay, the symbol's going to get a little bit bigger. The distance is the same. It may appear they're further apart, just that the symbol got bigger. I'm going to go back and change my scale of this particular building elevational view to be 1/8. And then it always zooms you out when you change the scale. And the thing is, middle mouse pan, middle mouse wheel in, okay, changes the size of these objects. So whenever you change the scale of the view down here, all of the annotations in the view that you're in will update accordingly to that scale factor. Now, if I want to go in and create a new level, I go to my Basics tab and I hover over. I can see my level button. I'm going to click on the level button. Okay. First of all, this is the type selector. Everything you draw, you have different level types. We have the properties of it, and then we can draw by the level by picking and dragging, or we can draw by picking existing objects. We're having a look. It says make plan view. If I check this off, I can draw a level and it won't make a plan view of that level. If I check this on, it will make a plan view of the level. Plan view types, in this case, they're all going to be structural, and I can put an offset on here, and we'll try that a little bit later. So now all I'm going to do is you can see the numbers, the temporary numbers. I'm going to pick a point somewhere and I'm going to drag to the right. Now watch the green aligning. Okay. Levels are very smart. They want to align, and it's also going to automatically put number 3 on there because the last one I did was level 2, and then I'm going to pick, and then I'm going to hit escape once to get out of that one command and escape again to close off the command completely. Now that's at 26 feet relative to 0. I can click on this and I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard, which is the nudge, and I can nudge in 2-inch increments or 4-inch increments. If I zoom in closer and I nudge it, It's in 2-inch increments. If I zoom way out and I use my arrow key to nudge it, it's nudging it in 10-foot increments. Okay, and you can do that with anything, not just levels. The arrow keys to move things around is the nudging. We'll see that. And now you'll notice that if I hit escape, I now have a new plan view called level 3. I'm going to make a new one maybe called top of parapet. I'm going to go in, I'm going to draw a level. I'm going to say do not make a plan view, and I'm going to hover over here. I'm going to pick on that point. I'm going to drag over here. It's going to put a number 4 in. I'm going to click, and I'm going to hit escape once and escape again, and you'll notice that this one is black. Well, the reason why is because this doesn't have a plan view. Blue ones are really symbolic of what is called a story level, which means it has a plan view associated to it. You'll notice there is no level for plan view, okay, because I said do not make a plan view when I did this. Now what happens if I later want to change and say, oh, I do want to have a plan view of that particular level? Then I have to make a new plan view by going to my View tab and saying New Floor Plan using level 4, because it will list the level, and then I hit OK. I can pick my scale, and then now I have a new level 4, and it also makes that current. Okay, click in here, zoom out. Okay, back to my elevational view, because you can only see levels from an elevational view. And now you'll notice that zooming in, my symbol is now blue because it's a story level and it has a plan associated to it. Okay, I can click on a level, hold my control button in and just drag it up and then make another level, click out. Again, it's black because it doesn't have a plan view. I can go in here and I can call this, penthouse. Click out, and there I have it. Okay, and now I need to make, if I don't want to, I can leave it. But if I want to make a new plan view, I have to go in here, new plan view based on penthouse, and then I have a new floor plan of that level where I can draw on that level, and then it's also turned blue. Okay. Now, if I click on a level, we'll notice there's some different controls. I can drag these over. Notice there's a lock symbol, which means the green is locking those guys together as I move them. Okay. If I click this 3D button and make it 2D, now I'm only dragging, first of all, the 1, which is fine, but I'm only changing the length of that line in this one particular view, this building elevation. Okay, this building elevation is looking from here, looking this way, right? This is that building elevational view, this guy down here. If I have another elevation, let's say this is the south elevation. If I have a north elevation looking back this way, okay, and I go back into here from here, if this says 2D, it means I'm only dragging this line in this elevational view. The opposite end of this, looking back towards it, I won't be moving that line, and we'll see that when we get into some more completed projects. So if I make this 3D, by clicking on the 3D button, first of all, I can drag that back. Okay. If I click on this and I drag that over, watch what happens. All of a sudden it goes back to being 3D again, and it's also locking it at one time. 3D means I'm dragging the line in all views that I can see the end of that line. 2D means I'm only dragging that line in this one view. That's all I really want to say about that. I can put a check mark on here or off, which puts the symbol on it. I can do the same thing with this one, do the same thing with this one. Okay, so the check mark makes it on or off. Okay, you'll see a dimension on there. If I hit this temporary dimension, make this temporary dimension a real dimension and click away, I have that. Now I can drive this level by the dimension because the dimensions are talking. I can click on here and I can take that 10 and make it 15 feet, hit enter, and it moves it up by 15 feet. Anything that's drawn on that level has now moved up by 5 feet. So everything is hosted, just about everything, by a level and then associated, and as I move this level up and down, all the objects that are on that level, even if they're offset above or below it, will then move. Now I can go over here and I can click on this level line. There's a couple more options inside of here. First of all, there's a little break button right here. Okay, add an elbow or a jog, watch what happens. I'm going to click on here and then it's going to do that. Now I can click on here and I can grab these blue dots and I can drag these over like that. Okay, click on here, I can drag this back and forth as I please graphically. I can drag this back and forth, but I can also move this guy up and down and then maybe pull this. You can't go beyond that point, 90 degrees. Okay, now if it's 3D and I go over here, notice this hollow circle. Okay, when I click on here, the hollow circle is right there because it hasn't been jogged. If I click on here, you won't see that circle because it's down here, because this is always lining up with this. Okay, so now because it's 3D, if I click on here, I'm going to move all of them because first of all, I'm moving it in 3D in different directions, and also I've got the lock. Just because it don't get the lock mixed up with 3D, I can click on here and unlock that from the rest of these and then still drag that over. Okay, if I'm looking back at this little bubble in the opposite direction, I will see that actually move. You'll see that when we cover elevations. So I can drag this back. Now watch what happens when I get close. Boom, it's going to go in and it's going to assume I want to lock it unless I say not to. Now if I click on here, I can take this and bring it back down, straighten it out. Okay, so that happens when elevations kind of get really close to each other like this and you can't see them. Click on here, you hit the jog. By default it moves it down and then I can move that up as I please. And then if I take the lock off it, then I can drag it to be wherever I want this way. So using your lock, using your elbow or your jog symbol, you can control that as you please. And then if you don't want to see it at all, you just click this checkbox here, turns it off and on. And then a black symbol means you don't have a floor plan. Now graphically, if you don't like the line style or whatever, okay, you can click on this and this says it's a level 1/4 inch head type. Okay, I can switch that over and say it's a different story level which happens to have a continuous line, or I can click on this guy and say no, you are a story level no head, which is straight. Okay, so there's different types that you can change it to be. Okay, or you can grab all of these and make them all be the same type. Okay, so you can change the type or you can change the properties of the type. Watch, I'm going to click on here. I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. I want it to be a 1/4 inch head type, but I'm going to check the properties of it and I'm going to say, okay, elevation is 42 feet. Name is fine. I can rename it here. Scope box we'll talk about in a different lesson. Now I'm going to hit this edit button up here and I'm going to say, okay, well, I want the color of the line to be, red. Okay, and I also want the line pattern to be, a dashed or hidden line. Hit apply, hit OK, and hit OK. Now I've changed all of them.